Hello, it's Ren Presents time. I'm your host Ren, and today we continue with the Belmont Saga, Part 3, Chapter 15, Under the Table. So, last week we resolved the hostilities with the Druries. The Seeker, using the coils from the Demophalon John, even though they're small and underpowered, still got it charging through space. They interdicted the Druries as they beset a Zaffin liner, ferrying Zaffin refugees into the League. Chance Drury was going to scavenge their engines because Stenstrom damaged some of the ones that were on the head on the hearth. And then he was going to, just for funs and shits and giggles, put all the passengers out into space. He gets into a confrontation with Paymaster Stenstrom, tells him what he's going to do. He says, and I see you called the fleet, you sissy, you Nancy boy. I see they're coming, but I'll be out of here long before they show up, because I'm good at that. I've been doing that for years. Stenstrom targets their Cassegrain gun on the front of, it's a basically Zaffin technology that they've bolted onto the head on the hearth. And he hits it with his guns, and it basically kills the gun, so it won't work anymore. They then collide with the head on the hearth, and the Seeker is a very sturdy, very heavy ship. The head on the hearth is much lighter, much smaller. Can't really stand up much in a shoving match. They with their main gun out, they bring their rimfire guns to bear on the Seeker, but they're way too small. They finally get them in position, and they lay a quarter-second barrage on the head with their one battle shot battery, and the ordnance works, the gun works, and the head is basically chopped to pieces. They escape pod at the bridge area, or the head shoots away, and Chance Drury vows to see Stenstrom again, but the Seeker pounces on it and just mauls it into bits. Possibly the end of the Druries, but don't count on it, because of course they'll be back. Because they're fun to write. They're fun villains. They're just despicable, no good, rotten, dirty villains, and they're fun to write. So they will be back. Yes. Anyways, so now we have 2 chapters left, plus a short epilogue. We'll be done with the Belmont Saga. We have some end matters to take care of. As we know, Paymaster Stenstrom's appointment was cost when Morgan Jeterix and the Marians used the brandy to make a salve to ease the suffering of the League civilians that they had picked up. So there's really nothing to do except return to Cana, face whatever charges await him. So let's get to this very short chapter, Part 3, Chapter 15, Under the Table. Stenstrom sat in his office. He still wasn't quite used to lights and the breathing sounds the living ship made. He'd gotten used to the dark and the mumbling quiet. He sat there absently holding Lily's locket, feeling the smooth gold in his hand. Sticky-fingered Tara had rescued it from the sister's domain, and he was glad. Despite the sister's magic, he missed her. In a few hours, they'd be back at Cana, and he would give up the ship and face whatever charges awaited him at the fleet. The charges didn't bother him much. Just like a stout pair of handcuffs, he could get out of those easily enough. He had friends in the right places. He belonged to the right organizations and had lots of money to finance his defense. What he couldn't get away from was the disappointment. What was he going to say to Captain Davidge and to his father? He promised Captain Davidge he would make something of this lady again, this old warbird Seeker. He promised him, and being an optimist, he guessed Captain Davidge would see the positives and would happily support him again in the reappointment to another vessel. Davidge was always good for that. And his father, what would he say to him? Sorry, Father, I annoyed just about every admiral I could find. I found out I'm some sort of it man as well, and I belong to the Sisterhood of Light. And oh, by the by, Lillian of Gamboa, whom we all like so much back at the manor, isn't really a woman. She was the sister's construct, made of sand, and I discovered a world full of hidden creatures that actively feed upon us, both mentally and physically. Oh, and I let them go too. I also got into a big fight with the 400-year-old Drury brothers, and they were a bunch of stinking robots controlled by their kestrel monsters. Just like me. And then there was the Seeker herself. What would become of her? As Captain Davidge had promised, she stood tall against all that had been arrayed before her. She still had all kinds of fight left in her. It would be a shame to see her go. There was a knock at his door, and Gwendolyn came in. "Ship's engineer," he said. "How goes it?" "We're making good time, Captain," she said with a familiar emphasis. "Small coils are holding up quite well. I'm very pleased." She sat down. "You look a little sad, Belle. What's on your mind?" He smiled at her. Gwen, we've only been acquainted for a short time. Yes, and we're already probing each other's thoughts and moods. Yeah, neat, isn't it? So spill it, Belle. What's got you down?" "Oh, well, it's nothing. I'm just sitting here wondering what it's going to be like to give this lady up. Looks like I blew my first mission, and my time on the Seeker's chair is done." "Well, I suppose blew it is a subjective term. Look at all the people you've inspired along the way to blowing your first mission. Aram would still be polishing silver at the fleet, and Tara would still be guarding nothing down at HQ. The Drurys would still have a free run, and I would still be a miserable, grouchy person without a friend in the world. I seem to have learned that I'm a pretty mean person when I'm in charge. I don't handle it well. I am much better as an important follower. This mission, I think, was a grand success. You feel like hitting something? Come on, let's head to the gym. Care to go a round or two with the grizzly bear? You'll feel better. I always do." "Is the gym in pieces, like the rest of the ship?" he asked. "Well, I don't know. I suppose we'll find out." Stenstrom laughed. "Well, maybe later." Gwendolyn left her seat and sat down on his desk. She took his hands. "This isn't the end, Belle. It's just the beginning. The place doesn't matter, and the ship doesn't matter. Wherever you go, I'm coming with you, or you're coming with me. It's a big fleet, and I'm happy to tackle it knowing you're nearby." I sound like Morgan Jutterix, don't I? She always had a knack for saying things I was thinking or feeling, but that's over. I'm going to say what's on my mind myself from now on. And guess what's on my mind right now? "What?" "You, face down on the mat, tapping out from a rear naked chokehold that's won me so many tournaments. Come on, let's let some steam off. Cana and all that rot can wait." Stenstrom stood and grabbed his coat. "Okay, I'm told I'm pretty tough." I'll bet." Gwendolyn put her arm around him and they headed for the door. There was another knock. Tara, Aram, and Lady Alesta came in. "Come on in, everyone. There's plenty of room," Stenstrom said, baiting them to enter. Tara stepped in. "Where are you two going?" "The gym," Gwendolyn replied. "The gym? You were going to the gym to fight, weren't you? Were you going to get me so I could watch? You weren't, were you?" "A good sir," Lady Alesta said. "I wanted to offer you a present, one that you have well earned." "Something for me?" Aram spoke up. "I took Lady Alesta to the mess to see if we could scrounge up a snack before we put into Cana." Alesta smiled and held out a black bottle of brandy. "I found this rolled under the table in the dining area. I'm told you need this, that it'll help you. Please, take it." Stenstrom took the bottle of Admiral Durliff's brandy, the last remaining bottle. "Well, what do you know? The star works in wonderful ways. There are no martyrs, and all will be rewarded. None are left behind," she said. Tara spoke up. Aram, are we still headed for Cana? Well, that we are. Then let's come about. We've got a party to go to on Baz, and I think we can just make it. Aram ran out of the office to the helm. Thank you, Lady Alesta, he said, marveling at the bottle. Alesta bowed and followed Aram out. Gwendolyn grabbed Stenstrom by the collar. Come on, Belle. Are you still going to the gym? Tara asked, tagging along. We're going to engineering, Tara, to see if we can squeeze a little more speed out of these coils, as Belle has an important date to keep on Baz. And then we're going to the gym and you can watch me beat 'em up. Several hours later, Stenstrom and Gwendolyn returned to his office. They were both mussed up and sweaty. Well, that was fun, Stenstrom said. You really can wrestle, Gwen. No kidding. I've been doing that since I was a kid. What, you think I'd be a pushover or something? We need proper attire next time. It's too hard to move properly in what we're wearing now. Gwendolyn took a deep breath. The first thing I do when I get to Baz is change. Goodness, how long have I been wearing these same clothes? Stenstrom looked out the window. How long till we get to Baz? 7 or 8 hours, if we can hold this speed. We'll be cutting it close, but I think we'll have a little time to spare. He seated himself. Lily's golden locket was missing from his desk. He wondered where it had gone when Gwen spoke up. Belle, what's this? She asked. What's what? This. Propped up against the bulkhead was a huge package, at least 7 by 4 feet, wrapped in gray paper. Its size and general shape indicated that it was a large, framed painting. There was a tag. Gwendolyn pulled her gloves off and read it. It says to Paymaster Stenstrom, Lord of Belmont, from an admirer. Got an admirer I don't know about, Belle, do you? I didn't know Morgan painted. He looked at the canvas. I don't know. Well, you needn't wait till another day, Belle. Open it. He pulled away the paper. Exposed, he recognized the frame. It was the portrait Lily had been working on years ago, when she had never let him see. Had he not been wearing his mask, he would certainly have been in tears. A friend of mine painted this for me, Gwen, he said. Where'd it come from? I've no idea. The sisters, perhaps? Gwendolyn stood there holding the tag. Well, can we look at it? He put his hands on the side of the frame and turned it around. They looked at the vast face of the canvas. There he was, standing tall, Lord Stenstrom of Belmont, South Tyrol, masked in his green HRN coat. Gwendolyn stood in the background wearing her fleet uniform and fedula, a tiny scar on her cheek. Aram and Tara were there too, as was the Seeker, peeking through the clouds. He could also see the Marians milling about in the farther reaches of the garden. He gave the frame a tap, and he heard the slight hiss of sand falling away. Hey, is that me? Gwendolyn asked, looking at the canvas. It looks like you. How is this possible? Stenstrom took a deep breath. Asked the sisters. They seemed to know everything. Gwen leaned close to the canvas. Who's that back there? Stenstrom was lost in thought. Belle? In the far recesses of the painting was a figure crouching behind a tree. It was a slender figure, garbed in red. It's Knife, he said in reply. Who's that? My enemy. And with that, we conclude Part 3, Chapter 15, Under the Table. So, I must profess I psyched you out a little bit. Though the Marians used most of the bottles of brandy, one of them had rolled under a table in the mess, and they missed it. And Aram and Alesta discovered it when they went to the mess to try to scrounge up some food. There's not a whole lot on the Seeker. So with that one bottle of brandy, he can still deliver that to Admiral Derleth on Baz, and just in the nick of time before the ball happens. Admiral Derleth had never said how much brandy to bring. He just said, get the brandy to Baz. So one bottle should, due to the loose wording of his command, should do the trick. Gwendolyn seems eager to form some sort of relationship or friendship with Stenstrom. He's kind of feeling sad that he had lost his command, that the Seeker was probably going to get smelted down, and that bothered him because he has a sentimental attachment to the ship because of Captain Davidge, his mentor and friend, once commanded it. And as he said, this ship really came through. It's a tough bird, even though it's old, even though it leads a little TLC, it's got a lot of fight left in it. So they turn around and head back to Baz as quickly as they can. And then they find a gift when they returned from the gym and engineering. The portrait Lily had been painting. And under the sway of the sisters, Lily probably knew, and since she had access to all that arcane instrumentality back in Westron, she saw the future, saw what was gonna befall Paymaster Stenstrom, and painted this picture. And then the sisters, after they deactivated Lily, decided to give it to him as a gift, sort of reinforcing that he is their it man. And in the background of the picture is Knife, his enemy that he's supposed to be following around. So they're back on course for Baz now that they've got coils, the trip, and taxing the coils as much as they can. Ship's pretty fast, should make the trip in just 7 or 8 hours, and they should have plenty of time before his deadline. Next week, the last chapter in the book, the final chapter, and then there's a short epilogue, part 3, chapter 16, The Ball. And that should spell it out. They're going to the ball at Fleet Annex Teflagar Martin 2 on Baz, and that's where he's going to deliver his 1 bottle of brandy. Until then, this is Ren Presents. I'm your host, Ren. Peace out.